Hey everyone, welcome to the second episode of Flying High with your hosts, T Muse 13 of the Panthers and Q Pierce 24 of the Washington football team. How you doing, Q?
What's up, brother? Happy to be here again, ready to get into the second edition of this and see where it takes us.
Yeah, a bit's changed since our first conversation a little over a week ago. Seems like the NFC is picking up some steam, is maybe being an equal to the AFC, which from my experience, I mean, I've been here for one season now, and the NFC has the only Super Bowl in that span. So I would have had that argument the whole time. But I do think there are some surprise teams in both conferences, good and bad. So maybe we could start there and kind of talk through a couple of the teams that have either surprised us in a good way or a couple teams that we're disappointed in. So do you want to go ahead and get started with a team that you're pleasantly surprised by so far this season?
Yeah, definitely. One thing I'll say is as well, I've been here for 2 seasons, and both seasons they are the NFC Super Bowl the Super Bowl winner is the NFC. So I can kind of agree with what you're saying so far. But to get into my surpriser of the season, I'll take it to the AFC, which does get typically talked about all the time. And I'll go with the Chargers. Death Wish, DW, good guy. Guys know him as the Pole Master. He's my favorite team, the Chargers, but he's 4-1 right now. I think he's actually winning his division. I'd have to take a look. Yeah, as of right now, technically he's kind of winning it. Dan is 5-2, but he's 4-1. He's only given up 75 points. I think that's number 1 right now through 5 games, and he's gotten some decent wins as well. I don't know. A lot of people kind of, or at least myself, I kind of pinned him as a 500 guy, 8-8 guy at the end of the year. And I think he kind of tells himself that he's a 500 guy. It seems like everybody does that these days. I don't know why. But he's one of those guys I didn't expect to. He made the playoffs last year, and now he started out hot this year. He's beaten all the NFC teams it looks like he played. He played the Falcons and held them to 6. He beat the Buccaneers, Field General, held them to 13. He played it close with Dan, but he got beat by 11, 17-6, but still held Dan and his firepower offense to 17 only. I beat Raider, though. I'm Chiefs guy, and then he beat KJ, the Steelers. So I guess it'll be kind of interesting to see how he does moving forward. Like, he has the Raiders and the Saints coming up in the next 2 games. If he goes 2-0 in those 2 games, I'm definitely a believer.
Yeah, definitely. So just looking at that division right now, he's in first at 4-1. Dan's in second at 5-2. The Raiders are third at 4-2. He's actually the lowest scoring team in his division so far, given he has played less games than those other 3 teams have up to this point. And as you mentioned, he's given up the fewest points in the division, which is not really a byproduct of that. He's far and away leading in defensive proficiency so far in that division. So, yeah, I like Death Wish. He really good about the polls. I was in his division in Primer before coming up and really enjoyed playing with him. He's a good guy. So it's good to see him succeeding, and I agree with you. That is a bit of a surprise up to this point, and we'll just see if he can keep it going.
Yeah, definitely.
My team's going to be the Cowboys and Grams.
Nice.
They're 6-1 up to this point. Their point differential is about 60 points through 7 games, so he's almost beating teams by about 10 points per game. He looks pretty solid. I've watched a couple of his games so far. He's got a pretty good roster down there in Arlington. Jerry Jones would be proud to see his Cowboys at 6-1 and have the talent that they do. The one issue is he's in your division, and your division's really good, the NFC East. You're 5-0. Rowan Ka is 4-2, and the Eagles are a little bit behind you guys at 2-4, but I don't know. You've probably played him more than I have. You're in his division. So what are your thoughts? Is it sustainable or not?
Yeah, he's another guy that likes to always do the, I'm about a 500 these days. My good days are behind me, but I don't believe that. He is 6-1. He plays me good every single time, even when he was 3-10 last year at the time that he played me. He has a good defense, and he's a good user on defense. That's the biggest thing. Smart player on both sides of the ball. I really like Graham's game. I've taken a few things from him in our games that we've played, just a few things that he like style defense that he does in certain areas. And he does that. He builds a good team. He has a really good explosive offense. He has some really fast guys at receiver, and he doesn't even throw the ball to Amari Cooper or CeeDee Lamb. He has like 3 other guys that he throws to, and they're all really good. So realistically, if he had a 7-man league in the offseason, he would have a great team to have and roll out there. But I'm definitely a believer in him. I obviously see him making the playoffs this year. It's going to be interesting. He has a lot of pressure. He's putting a lot of pressure on me to win every single game right now because obviously if I lose, we're tied for the division. If I lose again, then he takes the lead right now. So I'm definitely impressed with him as well. So that's a good one to pick.
Yeah, I want to touch on that. You mentioned having to win every single game right now, and so far you've done that. You're 5-0. You're the only undefeated team in the NFC up to this point. There are 2 one-loss teams behind you, Grams and Dump with the 49ers. How are you feeling this year? You're 5-0. You're doing well. You are tied for the league lead in points allowed, 75. So you're allowing about 15 points a game through 5 games so far. Anything that you want to improve on this year, or are you feeling pretty good all around?
Always for me, the improvement is limiting my turnovers. If I honestly believe if I limited my turnovers like some of the guys in here, I would be very, 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 very hard to beat. But I don't. That's the thing. I never limit my turnovers in any league that I'm in. I'm a gunslinger at heart. I'll throw it into 3 people sometimes stupidly. Why? I don't know. Maybe because I'm not sober. Who knows? But I really do like my team. I mean, I did inherit the QB to start Adkins, and the defense, obviously, the front 7 is tough. But I really like what I've done. I like the running that I've added to my team. If I limit the turnovers, I really like my chances overall. But I have a decent schedule that I think I've beaten. Eagles is tough, I think, even though his record is not a winning record. He plays me good. Maybe that's just because he's a division foe. But I beat you. You're an NFC conference champ representative from last year. I beat Woods, the Browns, 42-3, and he's pretty respected amongst the league, and he's respected in the AFC for sure. And then Grams, me and him always have a close game, and I squeaked one out 24-10 versus him. So surprised that I am undefeated, just because I do see on my schedule I can see at least 1 loss for sure out of the teams that I've played so far. But definitely excited and expect to be better than the 10-6 season that I had, which I thought was a horrible season last year for myself.
Oh, definitely. I got to give credit to your front 7 and your offensive line. They absolutely dominated me when we played. Aaron Jones, he didn't get touched. I think he might have gotten touched twice the whole game. Not sure what was going on. But your team looked really good. They looked really good in the trenches, really good where it mattered, and you have some skill guys. Terry McLaurin's trouble. So
yeah,
right now I would probably label you as the favorite in the NFC. I mean, it's tough to say. It's pretty wide open. There's you. You talk about Grams. Dump is going to be up there. RD.
We never talk about. It's just about to say we don't talk about RD, and he's obviously the reigning champion. So it's the NFC. It's to piggyback on what you said. We don't even talk about some of the guys that are powerhouses even in there.
No, definitely. And I mean, there's some high-powered offense this year. Dump and Fads are both over 200 points already this season. It's going to be a tight battle down the stretch. So I guess now we can go into teams that we've viewed as disappointments up to this point. What are you looking at?
Yeah, it can't always be so positive on flying high, even though we always do try to remain positive. And I would say, I hate to pick on you, my podcast running mate, but I would have to say you, man. You're the former NFC from last year, one of the 2 representatives for the conference championship in what I consider a stacked division or conference, I should say. So you had a lot of hype going into this offseason as well. A lot of the guys are starting to pay attention to you, and a lot of guys started to say, I think Panthers is here to stay. I think he's definitely somebody to watch out for. You got out to a hot start. You went 2-0. I think you beat Faz in one of those first 2 games, who obviously is very respected in this league. Then we recorded the show, and you took 1 loss, and then you took a few other ones. So it looks like you're on a 3-game losing streak right now. Not to keep trying to pick on you because I don't want to do that at all. I just want you to kind of talk about how you feel about how you started now. Did you expect to be here in this point, almost halfway through the season at 2-3?
No, I definitely did not expect to be here. I'm negative point differential, which is very rare for me.
Uncharacteristic.
My defense is nowhere to be seen, which is uncharacteristic for me.
Yeah.
I'm turning the ball over left and right, which I also usually limit that.
Yeah.
I don't feel great right now, and that's not just in SML. That's in my Madden life as a whole. The last like 5 or 6 games of Madden I've played, I can't move the ball. I can't find open receivers. I feel like all my guys are blanketed the whole time. I couldn't stop a runny nose. I don't know. It's been bad for me. I'm definitely not feeling confident. I'm in a bit of a Madden slump, as I call it. I mean, luckily, the good part is it's only week 6.
Yeah.
I've only played 5 games. It's week 7, sorry. But I've only played 5 games. It's my 6th game. And I have time to bounce back. I can get a couple wins and get my momentum back.
Yeah, definitely.
Better to be in the snide now at the beginning of the season than at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Doesn't really... Regular season losses don't matter as long as I can sneak into the playoffs with some momentum. So trying to remain positive on my end, but I'm definitely not feeling confident behind the sticks. I got a PS5 this week. I'm 1-4 combined across
on the PS5
leagues on the PS5.
Oh, no.
I'm not blaming the PS5. I don't really think it's that different. I've had some weird missed tackles, but that could just be me being stupid. Yeah, I'm just not seeing the field well. I'm not confident in my play calling. I have Russell Wilson. I should be passing the ball better than I was last year, and it's the complete opposite. Russell Wilson is not having a good statistical season so far this year. DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel, they're not getting open for me. I played Dan. I got blown out 38-10, I think was the score.
His defense tough.
I was driving down the field to tie it in the first quarter. DJ Moore dropped the ball. I threw an interception the next play and never recovered. And that's just kind of how it's going for me right now. And I just felt like, I mean, Dan's defense is loaded. His roster's loaded. He's really good, obviously. So it's nothing to be
for sure
ashamed of or super surprised by. But I just felt like my guys were blanketed. And I felt that way in all my recent games. So enough about me, though. No one...
Just one tidbit. I would say the only thing I do know is you're making big plays on offense with DJ Moore on the times that he does get open and Samuel. But the biggest thing is I think McCaffrey, he only is averaging 6 yards a catch right now for 19 yards a game. I think that once you get him kind of going in both offense or the running and passing game again, it's where you'll find your rhythm.
Yeah, historically my game has been ball control, don't turn the ball over, and play solid defense. And I honestly don't think I've been looking at McCaffrey enough so far. Yeah, I've been looking for the big play. I'm kind of playing your game. That's just not how I win games. That just gets me into trouble. I'm more of a get 3 yards on first down, 5 yards on second down, and get the first down on third down. I'm a Saints fan in real life, so I've been watching Noodle Arm Breeze here the last couple of years. That's how they've been operating, and that's just kind of where my headspace has been going. So, yeah, I think my philosophy, I just need to get back to the basics, and hopefully I do and don't run out of time. But we'll see. I still expect to be in every game at least, even though I'm playing like complete shit right now. Anyway, yeah, enough about me. I'll get off my soapbox here. The team that I am disappointed by, I'm going to stick to the NFC. I'm going to go with Meats and the Cardinals. Might be a little unfair to pick on him right now, but I mean, he has a negative 23-point differential. He's scored less than 100 points through 5 games, so that's less than 20 points a game for him. All of his losses have been against really good opponents, so nothing to really hang his hat on. I mean, he lost to Rowanco week 1, and Rowanco's been playing really well this season. He lost to Paulie, who is one of 2 undefeated teams in the SML right now. Both were 1-score games, so he was definitely in both of those games. And then he just got blown out by RD. But as we mentioned last week and mentioned a little earlier in this podcast, RD is arguably the cream of the crop in the NFC. You would like to
Yeah.
see a better outcome than 35-10, but it happens. I can speak from experience. So I don't know. From my understanding of the league, since I've joined, Meats has always been in the thick of it in the NFC, especially in the regular season. He's always one of the top teams, and right now he's under 500. He's not playing well offensively. He's struggling a little bit, and his schedule's not getting any easier here. He has dump, RD, and then dump again in the next 3 weeks. So he can't afford to drop. I don't know. I think he has to go 2-1 or better. I don't think he can start the season 3-5 and figure it out and get into the playoffs in the NFC. I think it's too difficult of a conference. But what are your thoughts on what you've seen from him this year?
Yeah, I agree with what you just said right now. I think it's in the NFC going 3-5, 8 games in. It's going to be hard to play catch up from there because everybody's kind of getting going now. I'm looking in the NFC and guys are getting going. Faz is now on a 4-game streak. RD is now on a 3-game streak. Dump has been 4-1. So that NFC West already, obviously with Dump, RD, and Tiny, the Seahawks. It's you can't really play catch up. You can't. There's not too much time to play catch up. He has lost to really good teams like Paulie, and Paulie has beaten all of the good guys that he's played. Paulie's had the tough schedule. I think he's the number one team. If not to get off topic, but he's the number one team if you were to ask me, just because his schedule that he's played, I think, is a little more difficult than mine. But Meats, I don't get the folding chair thing. I don't understand that one. I guess because I haven't been around as long as everybody else, of course, that calls him that. Because there's a lot of guys that are successful and that are very well respected in here that have folded in the playoffs time and time again since I've been in here. They've lost early on, and it's not expected. So I guess he gets a little bit more criticism than he maybe should get. Maybe because he's the young guy. I do see that he is a younger guy. I think he said he's 24. But I do want to see him in the playoffs because I like Meats. I like him providing the stats. I'm a stat guy myself. I really enjoy the nerdy side of things of the stats, and I like seeing that type of stuff all the time. So please keep providing the stats for the new guys Meats, even if you get shit for it. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. You touched on Paulie a little bit there. I think that's a great place to go here.
Yeah.
He's played, like you said, a pretty tough schedule. He's beaten NYT, RD, Meats, Dump, Matt.
Yeah,
and then
that's tough.
Latin Yank and the Jets. He's 6-0. He's the only 6-0 team in the SML. Some close games in there, but wins are wins. He's looked super impressive, and I'd agree with you. I think he is the number one team. I think he's the team to beat right now. It's tough in the AFC. Obviously, guys like Prime, Bomber, Dan are going to be there at the end. We talked about DW. Matt and the Patriots, 5-1. So a bit of a bounce back season there. So that's another person you have to watch out for in the AFC. So, like you said, the folding chair thing doesn't make a lot of sense. The playoffs are hard, and I just ran through like all those teams could win really any game against each other. But right now, Paulie would be the bet right now to win the AFC just based on his body of work so far this year.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Bomber is good as well. Bomber's really good. I think I actually, the first show I was ever on was First and Goal, and I was brand new, and we were asked who was the best defense, and I watched a few of Bomber's games because I enjoy all of his content, so I tuned in right away, and he was, his defense was really good to me. I thought his defense was always good. He makes reads that I think he picks up on things really well, and I saw that Paulie kind of does the same thing, but Paulie kind of plays how you were talking about, how he's going to take 4 yards, and he's going to take 4 yards at the next play, and he's going to take 4 yards at the next play, and then he's going to take 12, and then he's going to take 7. So it's just, he works his way up the field. He does a lot of outside runs I saw with Breida, and Breida can't be stopped, it looks like. And adding Clowney, that 1 year, $35 million deal where he got paid, franchise quarterback money, it is paid off, definitely, because he, like you said, he beat RD, the cream of the crop of the NFC. He beat Dump, the cream of the crop of the NFC. He beat Meats, who is one of the cream of the crops. He's beaten the best of the NFC West for sure, and a lot of the strongest guys in the NFC in general. But that kind of takes me into the poll voting. I know you saw the poll voting. If you didn't, there was a poll that was asked about the AFC or the NFC in total. If you had a choice, who do you think is the toughest out of the conferences, the two? Are you going to be biased and say the NFC? And if you do, will you provide some factual proof with it, or are you going to go with the AFC?
It's a tough question for me. I'm still really new. I haven't played everyone. I haven't played a lot of guys actually. Out of the AFC, like the top of the AFC, if we're going through that, I've played Bomber, Prime, and Dan. Dan just kicked my ass. Prime beat me by, I think, a touchdown in my first ever SML game with the Panthers. And I did beat Bomber last season. So I'm 1-2 against like that three-headed monster year in, year out. I haven't really had the chance to play any of the other top guys in the AFC. Over the NFC, you've beat me this year. I've lost to RD. I'm 1-1 against Faz. I lost to Rowan this year. But I think just based on who I've played, I don't know. It's tough. It's really almost even for me. I know that's a bit of a cop-out answer, but I mean, both conferences are really, really deep. Like, both conferences have 6 or 7 teams that you don't want to see, and that's how many teams make the playoffs. So the playoffs are always difficult, especially with Paulie stepping up. That adds a whole different element to the AFC, which was sort of viewed as a three-headed race last season. But overall, I'm going to go the NFC because they won the Super Bowl last year. Everyone talks about how uncertain it is, and they won the Super Bowl the year before based on what you're telling me. So if there's really that much level of uncertainty in the NFC every year, and they've won the 2 most recent Super Bowls, it's pretty hard to pick against them. And yes, I'm also biased.
Yeah, I'm going to have to be biased as well, I think, naturally. I just think I look at the bottom of the NFC and the bottom of the AFC, and I'm a lot more confident in the bottom of the NFC. Like, I'm a lot more confident in the Eagles, mythical hedge duck. And no offense, I haven't played. Actually, I did play the Jets, but I'm more confident in him playing against or like mythical hedge duck. Is that his? Yeah, I think that's his name. Beating the Jets, a guy like that. Same thing with like I'm a lot more confident in a Hova beating a Raider, or if we're going the records right now, Tiny of the Seahawks, he's 0-6. Chiefs is 0-7. If we're putting the two defeateds against each other, I'm confident, I think, in the Seahawks, even though I love Raiders content as well. He's a gem. He's a hilarious guy. And keep up the bulking, by the way, Raider. I saw you post your picture. Nice progress. Keep it up. But yeah, I'm going to go with the NFC. I just think that the bottom of the NFC is a little bit better than the bottom of the AFC. The top of the AFC, it's arguable. I mean, you could easily say that the top of the AFC is better than the top of the NFC. And I wouldn't debate that hard just because, like you said, Dan is good, Prime is good, Bomber is good, Paulie is good. Those guys are all really good, all top guys in the SML. Same with, I think, the top NFC guys as well. So I'm sure the AFC shows will probably disagree and say the AFC is the better conference, but I'm going to go with the NFC as well.
Yeah, and to your point about the bottom, the AFC has 3 winless teams right now, and the NFC has 1, and then the NFC only has 1 team with 1 win, and that's the Buccaneers. So,
who won a Super Bowl at one point in SML? Yeah, like Field General is a former SML champion, I believe, and then our winless team is Tiny, who at one point was almost a playoff contender last year. So yeah, I'll let you take it from there, but I just wanted to point out our winless team. Yeah, Seahawks, who is, I don't think, deserving of being winless.
No, I'd agree with that overall. Don't really have too much to add. I guess one more thing that I just want to point out before we go is a big topic of discussion from the offseason was Dan trading his quarterback to be able to draft a edge rusher at 3 in the draft. But so far, Charles McDowell, his rookie quarterback, is leading the SML in touchdown passes with 18. He's averaging 267 yards per game. I found that interesting. I was just going through the stats here, and he got a lot of flack on that trade, but I know he lost a couple games early, but it looks like he's rounding into form here, and Charles McDowell is going through that quarterback factory in Denver, and seems like he's going to be a keeper and probably his quarterback for the rest of the cycle, I would think.
Yeah, his attributes are really nice. I was looking at him as well. I think he's pretty fast also. But yeah, Dan is the QB whisperer. It doesn't look like it's paid off for the Bears because he's still 2-4 now. That's who got him, right? The Bears got him?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah. He's 2-4, so it doesn't look like Emery Leverett, or I think that was the guy's name if I'm pronouncing the last name right. It doesn't look like his Hall of Fame career will probably continue. It looks like Charles McDowell's Hall of Fame career will start, and I do expect Dan, like you said, he got his early clinks out of the way, and he's probably ready to rock now with McDowell.
Yeah, definitely. I just found that tidbit interesting and wanted to throw it in here at the end, but not sure if you had anything you wanted to share before we wrap it up here today.
Just it'd be cool to get some other guests on. Obviously, we're not, as organized. We're just spitballing out here, but it'd be cool to get some other opinions, other voices on here, and definitely kind of pick the brain of some of these SML guys, get to know them a little bit more, since me and you are, of course, some of the newest guys in here. But I enjoy the league as always, of course. Just another shout out to Prime as usual, running a great league and all the guys that come with it.
Yeah, definitely. We've actually gotten some interest already for guys willing to come on. So thank you for that. This week's a bit hectic. I know I'm in the middle of moving, so my schedule is kind of just changing by the minute. But we'll definitely have some guys on here in the future, hopefully next week or whenever we record next. And yeah, looking forward to it. Hope you guys enjoyed the second episode of Flying High, and thanks as always. Talk to you guys soon.
Peace.